The Story of Mary and Sherbert. Several miles from the nearest town, there was a small cottage with a garden. There, a little girl named Mary lived with her mother and father. One day, when Mary was in a sullen mood, Mother said, "Go and get some of those spring flowers we saw by the pond the other day. Some fresh air would do you good, and the flowers might brighten your mood." "Okay," Mary agreed. Her mother wrapped a scarf around her. She put a freshly baked bun, a bit of cheese, and an apple in a basket. She kissed Mary's head and sent her off. Mary waved to Father in the garden as she walked by. He nodded and smiled lovingly and kept working. On the way, she saw birds busy in the trees. They tweeted happily. She saw bees buzzing near a hive. She pouted and picked up a few acorns to throw. And when she got to the large pond, she sat on a nearby rock and opened her basket. She was about to bite into her bread when she heard soft sobs nearby. "Who's there? Who's that crying?" There was no answer. She looked around her and saw no one, but soon noticed a peculiar trail of rainbow-colored candies on the ground. She followed the sound and picked up the candies one by one until she saw a bear cub with rainbow colors on his fur. He was little and looked quite soft. "Are you crying?" The startled cub's eyes widened with fear. His gaze went to the far end of the pond, to his cave home and his mama bear. He attempted to scamper and fell, and he was about to cry out when Mary spoke gently. "I'm sorry, little bear. Please don't run. I just want to be friends." You do." The cub backed away slowly and unsure. "You can speak?" the girl gasped. The cub startled again and darted a little further from her. "I'm sorry," she pleaded. "Please come back. What's your name?" Mary took a few steps backward toward the large rock and her picnic basket. The bear cub relaxed a bit and sat. "My name is Sherbert," he said. "Who are you?" "My name is Mary." Mary watched the frightened bear cub wipe a tear away. It fell to the ground and turned into candy. "You cry candy tears?" "Yes, but don't eat them. They're sour." Mary took a few steps to the pond to rinse the candies she'd collected and put them in her pocket. She walked warily toward the sulking bear. "It's okay. I like sour candies." "Why are you crying?" said Mary, making herself comfortable in the grass next to him. "I'm crying because I don't have friends to play with," he pouted. "I'm sad too, because I don't have any friends to play with." The bear straightened up and turned to Mary. His rainbow fur seemed to dance in the breeze. "Hey, you really want to play with me?" Mary's feet wiggled back and forth. "I'd love to. Oh, but I have to pick flowers for my mommy." Sherbert stood up and brushed a few leaves from his fur. "I'd like to help." "Great." The two little ones picked loads of flowers. "Your mom must be very hungry," said Sherbert when the basket was full. Mary giggled. "She won't eat them." Sherbert looked confused. "We put them in a glass vase with water. They sit on the table to look at while we eat something else." Sherbert rubbed his head. "Well, what do you eat?" She reached in her basket. "Buns, cheese, and apples for starters." She broke the bread and cheese in half and gave some to Sherbert. She ate half of the apple and gave the rest to him. He ate it, core and all. "I like your food. What else do you eat?" When I go home, I'll have mulberry pie waiting for me." "I love mulberries, but what's a pie?" "Why don't you come with me and have some?" "I'll have to ask my mama. Follow me." Mary followed the cub. While they walked around the big pond, she reached in her pocket and pulled out a few candies. She popped them in her mouth, one by one. The bear laughed at all of her twisted, sour face expressions. "I didn't know sour tears could be so funny." "You're lucky," said Mary with a sour smile. "My tears are only salty." There was a cave entrance hidden by a large tree and some brush on the other end of the pond. Sherbert introduced Mary to his mother. That summer, Mary and Sherbert met at the big rock by the large pond every day. They played, swam, and shared picnics on the tall grass. In autumn, Sherbert waited patiently by the pond until Mary came home from school. Mary taught him all the letters she'd learned and how to write his name with mud. On their meeting rock, Sherbert wrote his name, and Mary wrote hers. When the first snow hit, Mary bundled up and raced to the large pond to show Sherbert how to make snow angels and make a fort and snowballs. But when she got close, she noticed a trail of rainbow-colored candy tears near their meeting rock. "Sherbert, are you crying?" "No," he lied. She picked the candy from the snow and put it in her pocket. Finally, she said, "Why are you sad?" "Because," he paused, "it's the first snow. We bears hibernate. You'll make friends at school and you'll forget about me after a whole winter." Mary threw her arms around Sherbert. "I could never forget about you. You're my first and very best friend of all." "Really?" "Really. And when the snow melts, I'll be right here waiting." "Promise?" "I promise." "Okay," he said. The two sat together on the rock quietly until the sun began to get lower in the sky. "Sherbert?" "Yeah. I hope you have the best dreams." "I'll dream of you." All winter, Mary returned and waited. She built a snow bear near their rock and thought it looked a lot like Sherbert, and told the snow bear about holiday dinners and pies he was missing out on. At times, she walked the distance to the other side of the large pond to the cave entrance to sing a lullaby that her mommy sang to her. Once or twice, she whispered in, Hey, Sherbert, are you awake? When there was no answer but soft bear snores, she sadly walked home alone. One Saturday morning, when the snow finally began to melt, she could wait no longer. She dressed excitedly and raced to the kitchen. "Mommy, it's spring!" Mother pulled a pie from the window and placed it in a basket. "Yes, it is. Here is a pie for 2 bears that have not eaten in weeks." Mary kissed her parents cheerily, grabbed the basket, and raced for the pond. Still, there was no sign of Sherbert. She ran to the far end and called gently into the cave. "Sherbert, Sherbert, are you awake yet?" Sherbert yawned and stretched. "What day is it?" "It's the first day of spring. We have a surprise for you." She opened the basket and presented the warm pie. Mama Bear's nose sniffed the air, and she smacked her chops. Sherbert and Mary laughed. "I can't wait for the rest of this year," said Sherbert. "Me too," said Mary. "I can't wait for pie," said Mama Bear. They all shared in laughter. Later, during their first goodbye in many weeks, they reinforced their mud path on their meeting rock. They cried a little when they hugged, and Mary caught the tear before it hit the ground. "Don't be sad. I'll be back here tomorrow." "I'm not sad. I dreamed that you came back, and you did." Mary giggled. "I'm never really gone, silly," and she popped a tear in her mouth. Suddenly her eyes widened a bit, and she squeaked with delight. "Sherbert, it's not sour." The end.